Hello everybody, welcome to the show Together We Grow, and today it's my absolute pleasure. I'm so excited. I've been wanting to get this gentleman on this show for some time, the last year, and we are very fortunate to have him on today. Welcome, Ratan Veer.
Satnam.
Satnam. And Ratan Veer is a Kundalini teacher, and I met Ratan Veer in 2013 when I embarked on my first Kundalini yoga class with the Kundalini Collective. And yes, we are going to start the interview by tuning in Kundalini style. So over to you, Ratan Veer.
Now, thank you very much, Siobhan. Yes, so in Kundalini Yoga, we're always opening every conscious action, a class or whatever we do by tuning in and calling upon our higher creative consciousness. And we're just doing that by rubbing our hands briefly together, and then we're bringing them into the heart center in what's called a prayer mudra. And the mantra we are using is Om Namo Guru Dev Namo. I'm humbling myself to the subtle divine teacher, the subtle divine wisdom which already resides within me. And we do that 3 times. So inhale deep, exhale, and inhale to tune in. Om Namo Namo. Om Namo Namo. Om Namo Namo. Inhale and hold that breath briefly. And then exhale, release your hands down and just stay within, breathe. Great.
I feel better already.
There you go. That's your own vibration sending healing from within. That's what happens with mantras.
So on that note, can you tell us a bit more about Kundalini Yoga?
Well, Kundalini Yoga as such is what is called a Raj Yoga, a royal form of yoga, because it incorporates aspects of all the 22 forms of classical yoga. So on the surface, we have asanas or dynamic movements. We have pranayama, which are breathing techniques. Then we have meditation with mantra or with breath or with body postures. We use mudra, hand positions, finger and hand, like Yan mudra, the one everybody knows. And then we also use eye postures, focusing the eyes on different points to stimulate the pituitary gland. So it's a whole package of technology, beautifully brought together to serve us. And Kundalini as such is a term, is a word that exists in many different techniques. Kundalini, the word as such, as most of people might even know already, is referring to the dormant creative life energy that lies at the base of our spine. Kundal, some people say it's serpent, but the literal translation, I think, is a lock of the hair of the beloved. And it's a 3.5 spiraled up energy. And
that's at the base of the spine.
Base of the spine, yeah. So Kundalini Yoga, as taught by Yogi Bhajan, what I'm teaching is systematically activating and raising that Kundalini energy at the base of the spine, brings it up the Shushmana, the central nerve channel in the spine, and so on and so forth. So it's a beautiful technology that incorporates a lot of different aspects from the classical forms of yoga.
It sounds very scientific, actually.
Well, it is scientific, but it's not necessarily applied in a way as you would think that Western science is applied. So we're learning about what it does and so on, but we're not only thriving for the knowledge about things. It's like, oh, if I push here, then that happens. It is part of it, but it is all about serving us as spiritual beings, having a human experience on the three aspects that make us a human: the physical, the mind, and the soul. So yes, it is a scientific technology because yoga is science. There's those yogis from like starting actually a couple of thousand years ago, then to coming to Patanjali, who was the first one to write it down and create the Ashtanga yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga. They knew stuff that Western science took years to catch up with, and only now slowly it becomes clear that that's actually all true. Yes, it is scientific, but we're not treating it as a science when we practice it as ourselves. We treat it as a practice, a physical, mental, and spiritual practice that can bring about our true self and our highest potential.
Through those different forms that you illustrated.
Through the different ways. So I mean, just to give an example, that on a physical level, for instance, we do what we call kriyas. A kriya is a specifically put together set of different exercises which are there to achieve a certain purpose or result on a physical level. And then we have a lot of meditations and a lot of breathing practices as well to achieve altered states of consciousness by changing the biochemistry of the brain. I mean, that sounds already like in the laboratory of Dr. Frankenstein, but I'm just saying what it does, but it is the practice that brings about that, and everybody is aware of these scientific explanations. And then there is the ultimate, the third aspect of it is the soul. So obviously you can't train the soul, but through the physical and the mental, we can develop a relationship between our finite existence and the infinite flow of cosmic energy, and which you could call the source. So the whole of Kundalini Yoga aims to support that process.
Mm-hmm. What does Satnam mean?
Sat, translated, means truth or true, and Nam is the name, the identity. So when we say Satnam, we're referring to our true identity, our higher self, our true identity as spiritual beings, having that human experience. But then on another translation, Sat is also referred to as the infinite. And again, Nam, the identity. So it refers to and connects us to our identity as beings of the infinite.
Yes. And why do we wear white in Kundalini yoga?
Well, strictly speaking, if you practice Kundalini yoga, you're not really, you don't have to wear white. That's a choice. When we teach Kundalini yoga, we wear white for a couple of reasons, basically. First of all, white clothing, natural fiber white clothing, can extend and expand our auric field, our aura. So as a teacher in previous times, before all this situation now, where we're all mainly online, when we teach in a room, we are present with our electromagnetic field, our aura, and the white extends that out, so you reach out better. It is also a statement of neutrality. So in Kundalini yoga, we have a teacher's oath. So when we teach, we say, I'm not a woman, I'm not a man, I'm not a person, I'm not myself, I'm a teacher. Because we want to be channels for this ancient wisdom, so that we might be good and great postmen, delivery people, so that maybe also supported to our personalities, the teachings can come through. And it's not so much about, like showing myself as Ratan Veer and my nice six-pack and show you how great I am in doing the postures or whatever. It's about me being delivering and uplifting the people. So that's also the neutrality aspect of it comes into the white as well. The purity, in a way, if you want to call that, although that's a tricky word, but yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think what I found with Kundalini yoga and why I love it so much is because I feel that energy from the teachers of wanting to uplift and help and be the postman of that loving energy and that loving presence. And in some yoga classes, especially in the Western world and in my experience, I have found it very almost competitive, like doing a HIIT class or something. I had a teacher once that was, really, a couple of teachers, really intense on getting us into those postures and doing as much as we could. And it was about who could do the best posture as opposed to the purpose behind the yoga. And I've heard it say that Kundalini is the mother of yogas.
I heard that too. I wasn't there, so but as I said before, I think because it incorporates aspects of all the classical forms of yoga, you could definitely say that. As for the, like every form of yoga eventually raises the Kundalini energy. It's just like you would have to do, 10 years of very disciplined hatha yoga practice in order to get to a point where you can get to 1 year of, disciplined Kundalini yoga practice.
Yeah.
So in the West, unfortunately, mostly, there is only one aspect of the 8 limbs of yoga very present, and that is asana, the physical posture. So in a hatha yoga class, you would have to hold the posture for ages. The teacher would come and correct you, and meditation might be happening 15 years down the line when you can hold that posture properly. And so here, unfortunately, it's all about the body mostly. And then, yes, you're right, there's the competitiveness that is coming in there as well. So I don't want to play down the other forms of yoga, because they are equally potent and valid and ancient. It's the question of how are they applied.
Yeah.
In the original teaching, Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga, there is asana, the physical aspect of it is one limb. Then there is pranayam, which is the breathing. Then there is pratyahar, that is a withdrawal of the senses inwardly. And then there is also what you call the yamas and the niyamas. They are sort of guidelines of how to behave yourself. It's like a complete package. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, here in the West, we're just so much focused on the physical body that unfortunately the mind and the soul is left out often. And yeah, so but with all, with everything, it's also about shopping around. There's lots of different teachers out there, lots of different approaches. There is very, very spiritual teachers of Hatha Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga out there. You always have to shop around a little bit. It's the same in Kundalini Yoga. If you want to try it, we always find the teacher that is right for us at that time. And then when a teacher had its time, we move on to the next one. So all yoga is good. Just find what is right for you, and don't get drawn into any competition. It's not about competition. That's actually, that could already send me off on another rant, because competition is exactly what's wrong and what makes people ill in this society, in which keeps people stuck in their artificial limitations, and which is creating fear and so on and so forth. So there you have it.
But some people would say competition is healthy, that it makes you strive
to
be a better person.
That is true, just not in the field of spirituality, and maybe not in the field of yoga. In the field of sports or any other fields, competition, absolutely, I agree. There can be a healthy aspect to it, particularly also if you're of a certain age. That has also to do with the life cycles, at what age. So for men, for instance, which is obviously my domain, from your 30s or even earlier on into your 40s, a little bit of competition for some men is great. There's nothing wrong with it. But in the field of spirituality and yoga, it can't be about that. It is not, we have to understand, but that's also such a limitation, because let's face it, how flexible are we? How flexible are you? How is it looking when you're in your 50s? Like, I'm 57. I have to live with the wear and tear and the limitations of my body. If flexibility, for instance, would be make the highest yogis, then the clowns in the circus would be the best yogis. It's not about that. Yoga yoga. The word means to yoke, to bring together, to unify body, mind, spirit with the. So leave competition out of the field of yoga and bring it into areas where it can serve.
I like that. And why is it? I loved what you said about how we in the Western world love the physical side of our body, of our beings, and we're quite obsessed, I would say, with the physical aspect of ourselves and each other. So why do you think the mind and soul is important, as important?
The mind
and the soul.
Well, because we were given a mind as a tool, and the mind is extremely powerful. Unfortunately, most of us are slaves to our mind.
Mm.
Our mind, the mind is automatic. We have about 1,000 thoughts per blink of an eye. 2 of them maybe come into the mind, and they determine our emotions, our everything basically. And if we don't learn to master the mind, we will not be able to discover our true self and fulfill our highest potential as a human, because we will be enslaved to the whims and the guidance of the mind. And if we don't develop a sort of a roadmap, then we will just, go off left, right. So I'm not saying we're completely mental all the time, but the mind is like a wild monkey. If you can't tame it, then it's sort of quite difficult to claim your birthright, which is basically happiness and fulfillment in your true self and finding your purpose in your life. So that's why in Kundalini Yoga we're very much focused on that as well, from the not just the physical. Also, basically, from an energetic understanding, prana, the life energy. In other fields, it's called the chi or the gi. Prana goes where the thought goes. So if your thoughts are particularly sort of maybe negative or doubtful or self-belittling or all these things that we all know so well to a degree, then that's where your life energy goes. And that's horrible, because it costs your vitality. It costs, it's a dear price we pay for that. So that's why we train the mind in Kundalini Yoga as well through meditation. And just to elaborate on that just a little bit, so in the yogic anatomy, in the yogic understanding, the mind has 3 aspects. There is a negative mind in there, which is our protective mind, the one that warns us of dangers, the one that says, no, don't do that, this is dangerous, you might run a risk, protect. Then there's the positive mind, the expansive, creative one that says, yay, let's go for it. Never mind the risk, let's just go, expand, and find the, problem solving, find a solution here, do this, do that. And these 2, for most of us, are pretty much kicking us about all the time, either one side or the other. And the one in the middle, the 3rd one, is called the neutral mind, the meditative. And that is the one that is connected to your 3rd eye point, your Ajna chakra. That neutral mind is the one that we train up through meditation, and which then, looks at both aspects. What is the negative saying? What is the positive saying? Okay, intuitively, what is the right decision for me? These will be quick processes. It's not like we sit there for ages, and it's still ideally a relatively quick process. It's just, if we train it up, the neutral mind, this decision-making process is naturally intuitive and with wisdom from within. So we will make intuitively the right decision that really serve us, and most of us, it's a thing with a negative mind. It's a great thing to have a protective mind. It's just like, if it gets out of hand,
yes,
it's just like, then, oh no, I'm not falling in love anymore, because in 1985 I fell in love once and that hurt because I got disappointed. So no, don't do that, So, and then what was meant to protect us suddenly becomes an imprisonment.
Yes.
Or, I'm not singing. No. My teacher in school always said, shut up, don't sing, you can't sing, don't sing. So that's then in the mantra, no, I don't sing anymore in my life, I can't sing. And, that becomes a prison. And so we, in Kundalini Yoga, through all these things that we do, we free that up, that stuff. We kind of work on ourselves. And Kundalini Yoga is also called the yoga of awareness. So in classes and through the practice, we're developing an awareness about all these processes within us. So It's not like we're coming in and, you do this meditation 3 times and then you're good to go, that's it. We develop an awareness about our processes. We learn about ourselves. Even Jesus said that, know thyself, because otherwise, so identify the processes first, have a technology to apply, to work with it and, free that.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's why the mind determines, everything.
Absolutely. If we're not looking after this, then everything else seems to become difficult for sure. And is there any exercise that we could do quickly sitting down right now that helps, is an example of controlling the neutral mind or developing the neutral mind?
Well, any meditation develops the neutral mind, and that is not just the meditation we do in Kundalini Yoga. We meditate a lot with using of mantras and breath techniques and so on, but Buddhists are meditating, Hindus are meditating, other practices are meditating, so meditation is the tool to train the neutral mind. One thing that I could show you, which is basically, it's a simple thing, but it's very powerful, and it's one of the cornerstones in Kundalini Yoga, that if we could do nothing else, because we wouldn't have any time, if we do this one thing every day, that would greatly serve ourselves, not just on a meditative level, but on a physical level as well. And it's called Sat Kriya. Again, we use the mantra Sat Nam in there. The only thing is that when I show the posture, my arms will probably go out of the computer frame. But so if you're interested, that's easy. You're sitting on your heels.
Yeah.
In what is called rock pose. You don't have to do that now. And then we're interlacing the fingers and keep the index fingers straight and the thumbs crossed over. And we bring that up straight so that the upper arms are just hugging the ears, trying to keep the elbows locked. And chin is in slightly, what is called a Jalanda Bandha, the neck lock, in order to keep the pathway free to the higher brain regions. And what we're doing is we're chanting Sat Nam, and on Sat we sharply pull the navel in, and on Nam we release it. The eyes are focused on the third eye point, and we're getting into a rhythm. I'm just going in there for 30 seconds or something to show you. I'm not going to do the whole 3, 11 or 31 minutes just now, but just as a very easy exercise. The rest of the body is completely still and relaxed, and then we're inhaling Sat Nam, 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 Sat Nam. Inhale, hold briefly. And then exhale and release the hands down again. But that was just a brief introduction to a really beautiful and strong kriya from the Kundalini world. The thing is, it's working on a multi-stage. So the mental focus and the eye focus on the third eye point, and the mantra. Man means mind, tra means to align or pierce. So a mantra, any mantra we use aligns the mind. But the navel movement already awakens the dormant Kundalini energy and brings it, sends it up through the Shushmana, through the central channel in the spine. And this rhythmic pulsation of the navel also activates and stimulates the chakra system. And also the heart gets a gentle massage because the diaphragm lifts up gently with every pulsation. So this is a multi-layered benefit kind of list for the whole of the body and the mind in just this one exercise.
One amazing phenomenon. So you think if you did that, for example, every day for 30 seconds, would it help?
No, 30 seconds would probably not really do that much.
Right.
So you would go for a minimum of 3 minutes, 11 minutes. If you do it for 31 minutes every day, it'll sort you out.
Wow. And I did that with you then. And it was difficult for me because I'm quite injured post having my little girl 2.5 years ago. So I've got bad knees, painful knees, and a painful shoulder blade. And the reason why I mention this is, I think, quite important because there are lots of people with physical ailments. And how would you suggest we approach Kundalini yoga with these aches and pains?
Well, I mean, that's exactly what I was referring to before when we spoke about the competition field in the yoga class, and the realities of our bodies. Well, I mean, in Kundalini yoga, for everything, for every posture, everything, there is an alternative that can be approached. So let's say you wouldn't be able to sit on your heels in rock pose because your knees are kind of have an issue. First, you would probably try to just have like a big cushion under the bum, between the heels and the bum, to make that a bit higher. If it doesn't work at all, you can sit in a cross-legged position as an alternative. If we teach Kundalini yoga to seniors, to elderly people, who sit in a chair. This is not, there's an alternative for everything. If you have a shoulder injury and you can't keep the arms up for such a long time, and then you leave them down. So you do what you can do, and that is exactly also what anybody who comes. So my classes, for instance, are all for all levels welcome, because one thing in Kundalini yoga is basic, that you do what you can, you look after yourself. If you need a break, you have a break. Then you come back in, you do it the way you can. And if you can't do it at all, and you're in a class setting, you just sit or lie, close the eyes, imagine yourself doing it beautifully, and believe me, energetically, that has an impact on your body. The mind is very strong. Yeah. If you go to other teachers, if you can't, they should, in theory, always supply an alternative, particularly if you speak to the teacher beforehand. If you have a serious medical problem, you need to talk to your doctor. Kundalini teachers were not doctors, so can't make decisions there. That's your call. But we can give alternatives to any posture that you might or might not be able to do in the way.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah. And I have been to some other Kundalini classes, and I love that aspect that you have just said of, at the very worst, one could visualize. And visualization is such a powerful spiritual tool. So I love that you encompass that in your yoga settings, because I know a lot of people, including my mum, that have been put off yoga because when they've attended a class, they feel like they have not been able to do the move, or they've been that expectation has been there to do that move, and it can create a lot of fear.
Yeah. You know, I just said I didn't mention that so far, but it might also be interesting for people to know. As I said before, Kundalini yoga is also called the yoga of awareness, because we want to become aware of our internal processes, not just physical, although that it starts there to observe, you know, physical awareness and so on, but also what the mind is saying. So on. So in Kundalini yoga, we are practicing with our eyes closed. So when, unless otherwise instructed, or you really need them open for balance, everybody has their eyes closed. So for all the people who shy away from going to a yoga class, if you go into a Kundalini yoga class, Kundalini yoga is taught by Yogi Bhajan, we practice with our eyes closed. So nobody's looking at anybody else. It's a big thing, you know, like you open your eyes in a class during an exercise, you lose 50% of your energy already.
Yeah.
So the visual impact. So we're closing the eyes and we're looking inwardly, even in movements and so on.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So what brought you to Kundalini yoga, and what brought you to teaching it?
Well, I at the time, and I think it was in 2006, I was doing, I think it was qigong or kumye or something in a you know, donation-based class somewhere, and suddenly there was a Kundalini yoga on offer one day through a project here in London, and I gave it a try, and I immediately got hooked. So the mix of mantra, chanting, exercises, it just got me immediately, and I fell in love with it. I thought, that's it. That's, you know, because it's not the focus on holding that posture. It's like your whole being is in question there, and so many different things. It's interesting. I'm a, you know, I get easily bored. I need a bit of stimulation.
That's
you
the
know,
Gemini in you.
that's maybe the Gemini in you, but yeah. So that's why I immediately got drawn into it. And then, as it is with these things, you know, we start a practice, and then we, you know, something comes up, we're not practicing anymore so much, and then you go back into it, and so it took a couple of years for me in and out before it got more serious. And then the thing is that my teacher, when he brought the practice to the West, always said, I didn't come here to create disciples, I came here to create teachers. Because he, in 1969, he already knew the necessity, the need for practices like yoga and consciousness practices and so on in these new times now, how much that is needed. And so he always aimed at creating teachers. So in Kundalini Yoga, we're all pretty much encouraged to go down to become a teacher. Teacher training is widely available, and so, you know, that's, you could, you know, if you want to deepen your knowledge and you like it, you could start teacher training almost immediately. You know, you do a couple of classes, you know, so it's really open to that. So in 2011, I became a teacher, and I co-founded the Kundalini Yoga Collective here in London with a couple of other teachers from my training. They've all moved on in their lives, doing different things. Some of them are still teaching. So now it's me and the other founding member, Pritam Kaur, good friend of mine. We're running the Kundalini Yoga Collective together here in London ever since. Yeah, so that's the that's the story behind it.
I love it. And I remember so fondly the first class that I went to with you and your co-founder at the castle in North London, and it was on a Sunday, and it was only £5 a class, and there was a window, wasn't there, in the ceiling, and
That's true.
yeah, spring was just starting, and as we were doing our moves, the sun was coming through, and it was very beautiful.
Brilliant.
And after, what is also so beautiful about Kundalini Yoga is that after the session, after the class, is a community sit down with tea. Can you explain a bit more about that?
That is right. That is not necessarily something that comes with Kundalini Yoga. That is something that comes particularly with the Kundalini Yoga Collective.
Right.
When we set out, it was always about creating community. So, you know, providing this magical, great technology is one thing. Uplift people and give people the tools to realize themselves, fulfill their full potential, etc. That's one thing. But for us in the collective, one passion and one aim has always been create community. We feel very strongly that in this day and age, that is the way forward. So we always share tea after class and invite a conversation, talks, questions, so people get to know each other, people become friends, and the circles widen. So that is something that, unfortunately, at the moment with the online teaching, everybody has to bring their own tea, but we still hang around after classes a little bit, at least for questions, or people can then share on the forum where the classes are up for demand. But that is really one of the Kundalini Yoga Collective's main points, and has always been creating community.
I love that. And why do you think community is so important?
That's a big subject. From a yogic and realization point of view, in order to realize ourselves as spiritual beings and establish a relationship with the infinite flow of consciousness, the source, some people call it God, whatever you want to call it, we have to come from our individual consciousness through group consciousness to universal consciousness. So these are the stages that it goes.
Right.
So from a yogic and that sort of point, that is one reason. So we gather in groups. We call it Sangat, the company of the like-minded, the company of the holy. We create Sangat in order to travel on that path. But then from a not so elaborate kind of point of view, that's what humans are here for, to get together, to serve each other, to enjoy each other's company, to share, that's, and I'm not saying everybody who stays for tea after class is lonely and has nobody to go back to. That's not what I'm saying. It's just like, it needs to be created, networks, more and more, in order for us to then realize the oneness of us all.
Absolutely.
And overcome difficult differences and so on, wherever we come from and whatever we do, and just share. So that's why we feel this is really, really important. And I feel just now, I mean, I don't know even where to start, but I think now it's more necessary and important than ever in order to stay strong and unified as human beings, now that there is more and more division created out there, that, you know, community networking exchange becomes more and more important than it ever was, really.
Absolutely. And I think we're in a pandemic now of loneliness. And I think that is really affecting our mental well-being. And equally, you know, you say, first of all, it starts, you know, with the meditation and the individual, and then the group, and then the universal. And I couldn't agree with that more. And when I went into spirituality and found it, it became quite a lonely place because I was doing so much work on myself. So having that community at the castle in 2013 was so important to me. And I think you're so right about what you say about the importance of community, and you really offer that. So thank you for that. Can you tell us a bit more about your online yoga classes and your Facebook community and everything that is involved with that at the moment? Because I really would love my viewers to have the opportunity to take part in this experience if this is something that you feel called to do, because it's absolutely wonderful for our well-being. Over to you, Ratan.
Well, thank you very much, Siobhan. That's very kind of you. Yeah. So in the light of these current developments, we have shifted all our activity online, as many people have at the moment. So what we're offering at the moment is basically, we're in the third time now. We're offering what is called a 40-day sadhana. So a sadhana is a spiritual, or it's a daily practice, not necessarily spiritual. So any daily practice is a sadhana. So we're offering at the moment 40-day sadhanas, where you get a class for £1. You sign up to 40 days, and then you get a class for £1, a daily live stream class in the morning, which is then also available on demand at any time of your convenience. If you can't make it in the morning, or it's not your time of the day to do yoga, you can just call them up at any time through the Facebook group, which is a closed group. So we create a closed group. This is now the third one. It's called Soul Sadhana. It's a closed group, and you're part of that, and that's where all the classes are on demand. We have monthly subscriptions where you get that 40-day sadhana plus the weekly classes on top of it as well. And if you're not up for doing so much just yet, we offer Wednesday evening, I'll do a class. Actually, the castle class is now called Your Home is Your Castle. It still happens on Wednesday evenings from 7 to 8:30. It's all very affordable. The 40-day classes, as I said, it's £1 a class. The online classes are a £5, so it's all really affordable and really straightforward. It's Zoom class, like everybody does, and all the information is on our website, www.kundaliniyogacollective.co.uk, or on our Facebook page, Facebook K Yoga Collective, so Kundalini Yoga Collective London, and all the Meetup platform. The classes are all on there as well. Meetup.com, Kundalini Yoga Collective. So yeah, it's all out there. But you can also, anybody who might be interested or have more questions to the subject or about Kundalini Yoga or the classes, can always email me directly, Ratan Veer at Kundalini Yoga Collective, or info@kundaliniyogacollective.co.uk. So I'm happy to answer any questions, whatever comes to mind. Please be in touch.
That is so lovely and so beautiful and such an opportunity for people. So I cannot thank you enough for coming on this interview today. And I look forward to doing the 40-day classes myself. Thank you
Brilliant.
so much, Ratan Veer. Sending you lots of love.
Thank you, Siobhan.
Bye, everyone. Sat Nam.
Now.